On this episode of the Anything Goes Hokkaido video and audio podcast, we're excited to invite entertainer extraordinaire Jeremy Eaton all the way from Tokyo, Canada and the USA to be our special guest. Jeremy began his career in North America and then started his international work right here in Hokkaido at Canada World. That's no longer around, but we can enjoy the stories he shares about that special place, as well as his work at Tokyo Disneyland and many other adventures. Jeremy's got quite the entertainment repertoire, so please stick around and enjoy the show. Welcome our special guest, Jeremy Eaton.
Welcome to the Anything Goes Hokkaido podcast. Or we could just start with the names, I guess. So I'm Shinya.
I'm Delana. And today we have a special guest.
Yes. Introduce yourself, hello. Mystery man.
Yes, I'm Jeremy Eaton.
Jeremy.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to see you again. Welcome to the show. So, Jeremy, you and I go back about a year or two. Is that right?
Something like that. A little bit less, I'd say. Somewhere in the pre-pandemic era.
Yes. Oh no, is that a new term?
Yeah. Yes, back in the days when there used to be indoor shows.
Yes.
The kids don't remember those days, but we had them.
Yeah, we definitely did. For you and I, especially being entertainers. We met on some kind of foreigners in Japan related group. I'm not exactly sure which one, but our mutual work in the entertainment industry just kind of took the conversation off from there. And it's been a wild ride and a really cool friendship so far. We've met a couple times when I was in Tokyo getting ready for my tour or doing other business. And always have a great time. Mm-hmm. And Jeremy, you have some history with Hokkaido, don't you?
Yeah.
Wait. Before we get into it, though, let's just start back at the beginning. How did you end up in Japan?
Yeah.
Well,
let's just go back up.
The journey starts in Hokkaido, actually. I grew up in North America, mostly in Canada, in Vancouver, and I became a street performer, juggler primarily, and worked in all throughout North America. I actually had a bit of a career going, I'm proud to say, before I left Japan, before I left Vancouver. But my dream was to travel the world as an entertainer, right? And it wasn't my first opportunity, but my first really international feeling opportunity was this job in Hokkaido, and I came to Japan just close to in '96, at the end of '96 or the beginning of spring, I think, and started working in a place called Canadian World in Ashibetsu.
Ashibetsu Canadian World. Is there such
Canadian? Maybe my parents know about this.
This is kind of new for me.
It's subsequently gone into default. It's not my fault. It was kind of I remember having a conversation with a really smart woman who worked in City Hall, and she was sort of saying well, we kind of thought Canadian World was kind of a dumb idea. And I said, she asked me what I thought, and I said, well, I can't really say, because I kind of thrive on decisions like, we need to build a replica of Canada in the middle of Hokkaido, and we need to hire a juggler. And so but it was kind of, I don't know, I kind of appreciate it, because there's certain, you want a certain amount of magic to exist in the world, right? You want there to be a Canadian World in Japan. You want this sort of fantasy thing to happen in the middle of nowhere. And it was great. It was a really good park, actually. I really enjoyed it.
Well, and Ashibetsu really is kind of the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
But that's so awesome that you brought some of that Canadian magic. Those words together instantly make me think of bacon and maple syrup and that kind of magic. But
yeah.
Awesome. How many years were you here in Hokkaido?
Well, I had a 6-month contract. We were working 6 days a week, and there was
Mhm.
5 Canadians, including a woman who had red hair, who played Anne of Green Gables. And
Okay.
I don't know if you know, like, the Canadian folklore here. There's Louisa Montgomery, I think is the name of the author. She wrote a book called Anne of Green Gables, fictional character. But they have a house, like a cottage in eastern Canada. That's the home that she supposedly lived in. This fictional character. Anyways, in Ashibetsu, they rebuilt this cottage in the middle.
Yeah, I have heard of Canadian World now that you mention it, because I've heard of that specific thing
Yeah.
from friends years and years back. Okay, wow.
I'm sure it still exists.
It's still there.
Yeah, I'm sure it's still there. It's probably, they probably don't promote it or anything anymore, and I don't know, because it was such a huge infrastructure. I mean, it was like, I don't know, like half the size of Tokyo Disneyland or something. And it's huge. There's a long track that runs around the side of it, the outside of it. You get on a bus and go around the outside of it. And they had like a lakefront with replica buildings from Quebec, a certain popular waterfront. They had an organ museum with all these great organs in it, and some yatai down the bottom, and shows in the middle. But I mean, it was sort of the Canadian characters. We were all these sort of turn of the century fictional characters from the book. I don't know how a juggler works in there, but somehow. But I did my show with a cap and knickers and down by the waterfront, and so I do 3 shows a day, and that was for 6 months, 6 days a week, staying in Hokkaido. It was great. The other Canadians, I mean, they hit a point where after 3 months, I don't know what other gaijin's experience in Japan is, but there's usually like different blocks or these walls you hit of sort of, I think what it relates to is tearing your cultural roots. So like there's a 3-month block, and there's a 6-month block, and there's a year block where you get these real strong, like, I can't exist in this culture anymore sort of thing. The other Canadians went through that really strongly. I didn't. I had a great time the whole time. So
I'm thinking about 96 in Ashibetsu. I don't think there will be any other foreigners except for you Canadians there.
Yeah, we were pretty rare. Which actually made it even more fun. I mean, they'd invite us around to all the local cultural things, cultural festivals and stuff like that. They push the shrine around and wear a fundoshi, and they tied mine too tight. They really were bad about that.
Ooh.
And then and then we go to the local omatsuri and do the dance where everybody goes down the street, and and then go watch the tea ceremony and stuff. But it was great. It was really good time. It was great that other people were there with me, because it would have been unbelievably isolating if they hadn't been. But it was also like I got a really good first experience of the culture and everything.
Right. Did you know any Japanese before you came?
Yes, I knew the word right, migi. I could say migi, and on the plane ride to Hokkaido, I learned yoroshiku onegaishimasu. Yoroshiku onegaishimasu. And that
useful.
Was what's that?
Useful.
Yeah, it turned out to be a good thing to know. Yeah.
Well, I love how you say, yes, I knew 2 words. As educators, we often try to tell people, don't say that you can't speak English. You've already studied it for 6 to 10 years in school. Yes, I speak a little English. It's like, yeah, foreigners, 2 words in Japanese. Yeah, I speak Japanese.
Yeah.
I love that difference in attitude. So
the confidence and the opposite thinking.
Right. So 6 months in Hokkaido, and where did you go from there?
Well, so what I did was, and this is not it was sort of an ill-advised plan. But what I did is back then you could get these things called around the world trip tickets. So for about 2,000 Canadian dollars, I got this ticket, and I could go multiple stops throughout Asia, all the way down to Australia and back to Canada. And I could use this ticket. I could use this ticket whenever I wanted to go from place to place and travel throughout Asia for the rest of the year. So I booked flights from here to there.
They don't have this now?
I bet you they have facsimiles of it, but it probably not as. I mean, that was just a great deal back then. You could, because there was probably less efficiency in the system back then because computers weren't quite up on it. So they probably liked to know that they were going to fill up seats back then, so you could probably get great deals. But I went from after Ashibetsu was over, I went from Hokkaido to Hong Kong, and Hong Kong I arrived with basically no money, and but I immediately hooked up with a local one of these performing agents. Magic Circus was the name of this agency, run by an American guy, and started working and doing parties and stuff like that in Hong Kong, and that ended up being great. But I was in Hong Kong for only about a month and a half, and after about a month and a half, that was enough. I was kind of tired of Hong Kong, and then went on to Singapore, Indonesia, Thailand, and then eventually Australia, Melbourne, and then back to Canada. But it was great because if you get a flight into Kuala Lumpur, you can easily get to Singapore. You can take a night. Yeah. We took a sleeper train up to Thailand. And back then, it cost us $500 for a week in Thailand, and that included accommodation, transportation. Basically, that was a fairly unrestrained budget back then. Thailand was actually the poorest place I'd ever been in the world, but it was one of the better countries I'd ever been to. It's really, people are really beautiful. I love Thai culture and
Thai food.
Yeah, Thai food. Yeah. Indonesian food was the worst.
Okay.
Oh, you think so? Really?
Yeah, it was really bad. I couldn't eat anything. And well, I mean, part of the problem was you can't read any of the menus, and there was a language barrier. But I figured out what nasi goreng was, and I knew that at least was pretty cooked. I'd gotten sick and stuff in Indonesia.
Yeah. That'll take your minutes.
Yeah.
So, wow, around the world trip, you ended up back in Canada, and obviously you came back to Japan. So what was that gap, or, how did you get all the way back here?
Well, it was strange because I don't know if you guys noticed this, where you get this thing where if you've gone to a place, it's so much easier to get there the second time. It's really, really hard to get there the first time. First time I came to Japan, it was incredible. I had to jump through hoops, get a visa. It took years. I had to become a Canadian citizen. I was an American. I had to actually go take a test to become a Canadian, even though I'd lived there my whole life. I actually went to go get the visa, and they're like, "We can't give it. You're not Canadian." I'm like, "What do you mean I'm not Canadian?" And they said, "Well, you were born in the States." And I'm like, "Yeah, well, technically, but I know what it's like to be Canadian, eh? I've lived here my whole life." And they're like, "No, we're not taking that." So all right. So what do I got to do? And they taught me. Anyways, so the second time I came back, I had an offer through another agency to go work in Kyushu this time, in near Sasebo, at a place called House-Thembosch.
Oh yeah, famous. That's super famous. Canada World up in Hokkaido. Yeah. Maybe we don't know that much about, but House-Thembosch is really super popular. Go on.
Yeah. So for your listeners, House-Thembosch is Dutch for house in the woods. It's a huge. They basically, during the bubble era, Japan decided that they would rebuild Holland in Kyushu. So they they literally rebuilt Holland. It's got cobblestone roads, it's got canals, it's got fields of tulips, it's got windmills, it's got huge museums, it's got the Utrecht Tower, and huge plazas with churches, and then they stock it with, or back then they stocked it with people who look Scandinavian. And that place is another place, like I like this thing of there being this certain amount of magic in the world, where you can go into southern Japan and all of a sudden a bunch of Dutch people ride by you on bicycles and they're all dressed in Dutch costume playing instruments, like that was these were the sorts of things that happened.
Oh wow,
making cheese and stuff.
That's fun. I don't look good in Dutch wear. I know this for a fact because at the Tulip Park in eastern Hokkaido, they dressed me up in Dutch clothing with the biggest, for the airport Have Fun in Hokkaido program.
What is Dutch clothing for people who don't know?
Maybe I'll edit it into the video. Flower patterns and what I was wearing, but not very
like
flattering.
A dress. Did you wear some?
It was a dress for me.
Did you get clogs?
Yeah, the clogs, and I mean my feet are actually quite small for my height, but they're still not tiny, so they ended up like huge clogs, like probably men's size clogs. I don't know. And I have super, super narrow feet, so they were really hard to keep on. But yeah, and like a kerchief. So like I had like a white thing around me, and just really kind of a bit frumpy for the classic. I mean, but it's like not modern clothing, obviously. I don't know if it was the camera angle or what. I know the director had planned to open the video with like me in Dutch clothing, and it's like nope. Cut that. It does not look right. Something is off here. So I would love to see some pictures of you in your Dutch outfits, Jeremy.
That time I don't remember. I was given free reign with my costume because I was doing shows.
Okay.
So I actually wore kind of like a suit and tie and a vest and everything.
Cool. I've seen some stock footage or shots of you and some of your performance costumes. We might have to edit those into the show for our viewing audience. Ooh?
This is one of my costumes. This is my latest costume here. That's just the jacket part.
Okay. Military epaulets. At first I thought it was kind of Chinese, and I'm like, is that cultural appropriation? Are we going to be in trouble here? Okay.
If anything, it's British. I
saw the tails, I went, okay, that's more British. So
I can't really appropriate from my own roots.
There it is. Yeah. All right. Wow. So what are you doing these days, and where?
That's a good question.
Or should we back up a little bit pre-corona, because everybody's kind of doing nothing these days?
Oh, Jeremy, you said you do juggling. Well, what else do you do? What is in your forte? What are you? Are you a jack of all trades?
Well, in Japanese, I say juggling, ichirincha, pantomime, breakdance, acrobatics, dajere, inchki, and so what I do is I consider myself a variety act, which means I will do anything if it's entertaining. Anything. You'd be surprised what nothing. There's nothing that I won't do. I have no shame. But I guess what do I do best? You know what? I think what people think I do best and what I actually do best are two different things. And what I like to do and what I do best are two different things too. Well, that's technically true. What I really like to do is just mess around. Like I like to play. I like to play with the audience. I like to basically try to have as much fun as possible while keeping people's attention
and show off.
Yeah, I guess showing off. Actually, I'm less interested in showing off. It's just being.
But that's what the people want, I guess. I think that's what the people like, in a way.
You'd be surprised. People don't
Okay.
necessarily like people showing off. I mean, they like. Because there's acts that are really great jugglers, but they're not necessarily entertaining, and part of it is like you can be an amazing there's an aspect of it that's somewhat athletic, and
Yeah.
and there's something to that. I mean, it's amazing to watch Michael Jordan play, but is he entertaining? Can he tell a joke? I don't know. Like there's certain athleticism to it where it is showing off, but for me it's I'm not taking any pride in that. I just merely want to be I just want attention, that's all.
I identify with that painfully. Like, I don't know that I'm the best guitarist. I know I'm not the best guitarist out there. That's why I hire other guitarists to play with me. I'm not sure I'm the best singer either. I'm the best me there is. But I love attention. I love being on stage. And I love having people feel connected to that too. You know, it's kind of about me or about us, you know, like the entertainers, but also you're giving a lot when you're up there.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's not just all about receiving something from the audience. You have to be willing to put it all out there and kind of do anything. Case in point, one of my last shows, I tap danced while I sang my original version of the Pink Panther, even though I'd only had like one tap dancing lesson in my life.
How did that go, by the way?
Well, the one comment I got on YouTube was probably the most horrendous thing I've ever seen written on YouTube. I think I had a couple like, oh, we'd like to see your feet or your shoes more, but because you couldn't see them at all. Yeah, that comment, even though this is like an explicit podcast, I'm not sure I can say what they wrote. It's going to go into my haters song someday.
Everyone has to just go on YouTube and search it online.
Yeah, maybe. I left it up there and I didn't respond just because I think as an artist, it's better to have a thicker skin and other people can think what they want to. And maybe it's the higher road to just not say anything. But at the same time, like if you guys want to go to my Delana Live YouTube channel and comment some positive things, even if you don't like my tap dancing, the fact that I was brave enough to do it would be nice. And I hope you're not easily offended because what they wrote was pretty bad.
Well, that's balls right there, just doing one lesson and just doing it on stage, you know, so I rate that.
I did this show after that, my last show. Sorry, somebody is trying to call me on my other device. So did I lose my video?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. We'll just let me turn it back on. Okay, I'm a popular girl tonight. I've got all these.
The phone's ringing here. Maybe it's me. No, that doesn't work. Well.
No. Okay, is my video back? Yeah.
Yeah, you're back. Yeah.
I was just gonna say that I have had this really cool. He's 13, I think now. Was maybe 12 when we started. Really amazing prodigy tap dancer here, and I've had him perform at a number of my shows, but the last one I did before Corona wiped all that stuff out, we tap danced together. We actually rehearsed and it was like a lot of fun, so I think it turned out pretty good. Maybe I would love to do that more.
There's a bunch of things like I think about that. One is that people aren't accepting of anything online that isn't like mind-blowing nowadays, and people have no idea of progression. Like there's a 6-year-old kid in China that's better than me at everything you could possibly do. He's better at anything, like just like even the combination of skills is probably a kid that's better at everything, and posting videos online like techniques and stuff like that. And I kind of missed an era when we didn't know. We couldn't just Google like, oh, the best at this online and then see the best and then just think, well, I've done that, you know. And we had, as artists, we had a little more what is it? We held the keys to the castle a little bit more than we do now. Everybody goes there and like, oh yeah, no, I just saw the best juggler ever or whatever, and then anything that's not better than that is like not even worth looking at.
Yeah, I think that it's a lot to that where, it was a treat to see something live because you couldn't just go on to YouTube or Google it. And it definitely makes us up our game for sure. Yeah. And then that's one of the things that this current online only society where everything is zoomed in, Skyped in, and televised.
Yeah.
You don't get the same energy and the connection, like that human face-to-face connection, like when you're in an audience. So I think we're going to get back to it eventually someday. Nothing can really replace that. But I just went into the studio today downtown and recorded some emergency announcements, all related to social distancing.
So,
yeah.
That's good. Well, it's better that's being done right now.
A couple years ago, I was recording new announcements for a missile has been launched. So, I think, I don't know what, there's no better in this. It's just is what it is.
Hokkaido is going to be the new Honolulu. Do you remember when Honolulu put out a text to everybody like about a year and a half ago saying, oh, we just launched a missile, everybody, or something, North Korea is attacking us or something like that.
Oh my goodness.
And everybody freaked out. Yeah.
Missed that.
Yeah.
All right, Jeremy. So again, pre-corona days, what would your average weekly schedule look like as a juggler? Do anything to get attention, kind of? Well, professional.
Actually, the last couple of years have been sort of an exception to the pattern. I used to be working daily at almost not daily, but I used to be working regularly at Tokyo Disneyland at Expiati, and there's a place in between the Disney Sea and Disneyland that I was doing shows in Plaza there every day. So that, and then I do gigs on the weekend or whatever.
Oh wow!
But about a little over a year ago, I broke my wrist falling off a unicycle.
Wow.
I was trying a backflip and I was going to try and land on one hand. And no, I'm kidding. I fell. and I broke my wrist. So that impeded my juggling for a little while. But this past year I've been doing lots and lots of improv and I've been learning acting. And now I'm proud to say I can act like an actor.
Oh.
I can act like an actor. I'm not, I'm just acting. But yeah, so doing lots of improv and learning about that last couple of years has been a real source of joy and been enriching and stuff. And I did a bunch of conferences. One the year before the 2 years ago was in Dubai. And this last one in last October was in Vancouver, which was great because that's my hometown. So,
right. I remember when you took that trip and you were very excited to be there and every day like, oh, it was so amazing.
Yeah.
I have to tell you about it later. It's later.
Yeah. Oh man, there are highlights, none of which I can say. Let's see. I'm trying to think of there's one moment that stands out in my mind, but it's not really public consumption. Don't
worry about it.
It's very contextual. Well, what it was that one of the scenes they were doing, it was one of the later night shows, so it was an all adult crowd, and the two of the characters were on stage and they were talking, and one of the women was saying that she was a lesbian, or the characters are a lesbian. The other one was like, what is that like? And they were talking about being lesbians, and she was like, well, we do this and do that. And then she's like, how do you do? What do you use? What do you do in that? And then, so they go off, and Dan O'Connor and Joe Bill are on stage, and Dan O'Connor, they're like gods in the improv world. they're talking, and the scene is that Dan is cooking the dinner for the family, and for Dan, it's a metaphor for his love. Dan's character, it's a metaphor for his love for the family and him and his dad, and he's getting to this really emotional moment where he's trying to tell his father that he loves him, and he's he's sitting there, he's holding this dish, and they're getting kind of choked up, and JoBell's starting to get the emotion, the feeling, and then the first character, the woman who was asking her friend about being a lesbian, comes into the room pantomiming a strapped-on dildo and goes across the stage, and it took the audience like a minute to stop reacting. It was unbelievably risky and somehow perfectly contextually. Like she wasn't doing it to be risque. Like it wasn't about, well, it was kind of risque, but she wasn't done like what's the word? Kind of, it wasn't lascivious. It wasn't. That's not the right word. It's too big word. She wasn't trying to be
licentious.
Licentious. Yeah, she was trying to be, but like if you were in that situation, like, oh, it'd be fun to run around with this strapped on in the house. Like that's what it was. It was playful. That's what it was. It was playful, and it was very funny. It was very funny. That was one of the moments that stands out.
Explicit video with Jeremy.
Yeah. So there goes whatever rating you had for. It's gonna have to go right to the other end.
That's all right.
Well,
I usually swear in every video, so
yeah, we end up marking them all explicit just for that.
Yeah.
So okay. Well, I was trying really hard to hold my laughter in so you could finish that story. So I hope our audience finds themselves lolling to that.
Yeah. That was quite memorable.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Wow.
So how did you? A question from me. So, how did you become what you are now as an entertainer? Did you start from when you were very young?
Everybody always asks me that, and I can see, I finally get it, like why they ask me. It's like there's no, there's no path to doing what I'm doing.
No.
And it's basically, I saw another street performer and years and years of sort of trying to make it work. It eventually worked. It's the actual answer is kind of boring, to be honest, but it's a horrible process. It's like you're poor, you suffer 200, 300 really bad shows. You slowly put it together over time. It's like it's picking quarters up off the ground. It's lugging equipment. There's so much blood and sweat and tears that it's like one of the great performers, the Flying Dutchman, he said we don't choose to become performers. Performance chooses us. And that's kind of what it's like. It's sort of like, this is what I am, and I'm just going to keep doing it until I'm defined that way. And that's how it works. There isn't a good answer. I mean, like, you take from everything, you learn from everything, you use everything, you see what works, you try something, it doesn't work, you try a different thing. That works, that doesn't work. There's a lot of, and you can use anything in a show, anything can be a performance.
Yeah.
It depends. But it's also, at the same time, it's really tough. Like, there was a classical violinist, one of top level guy, and he had like $1 million violin, went out in the street and started playing the violin, and like after an hour in a crowded spot had made no money. And,
yeah, I've seen that video actually.
Oh, okay.
Where they it may not be the same one you're referring to, but they had like this guy had packed out Carnegie Hall for like that night, sold out, playing that Stradivarius in the subway, and like nobody gave him money, nobody really stopped. And yet, I think it's all about how you frame things.
Yeah, so street performance is really, really hard, which is why, I mean, and I'm not a top level Stradivarius player. I just use every gimmick, trick, and and throw enough spaghetti at the wall that eventually sticks. But I've had that happen in Tokyo where I couldn't get people to stop, and then I still am terrified of that happening sometimes. But other times there's magic. You may have seen the movie Benny and June with Johnny Depp. Maybe?
Yeah. 懐かしい.
Yeah. But that character was actually very similar to the kind of character I was as when I started out as a performer in New York. And I wouldn't be surprised. Well, I would be surprised. But there's a scene in the movie where he goes and he kicks his hat around. He does 2 really simple hat tricks with it, and then does a frontwards flip onto his back, and immediately has a crowd of 200 people watching him. And that pissed me off so much.
Because it never...
Movie magic.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that at all. It would be like going out and playing 3 notes on a clarinet and then having a crowd. Like it's way, way, way more difficult than that. And it doesn't even compare. But yeah.
Yeah, it's like everybody goes, oh, you're an overnight success when any artist, be it music or drama, whatever it is, like suddenly gets their fame. But it's like, I've been doing this for 10 years, 20.
Yeah.
How many years for me? So, wow. When did you first learn to juggle?
I have an answer for that. I saw it on TV.
But were you like a kid or an adult, or?
It's actually funny because my karma ended up meshing up. I was 12 years old. I was at my grandmother's. I was watching. It was Anthony Gatto being taught by Professor Confidence, a guy named Dave Finnegan, who at that time I don't think I really knew who he was. And I was like, oh, I saw what they were doing. And I'm like, oh, I could do that. Went out in the front yard and learned to juggle golf balls, like 5 throws. I could do 5 throws. I'm like, hey, look what I can do. And I was like, nobody cares. And then after high school, I got really into it. Like I just sort of like, I think if you can do anything you want, sort of to earn a living, like this is something at least I like. And so I just got really focused on it. I was practicing a lot, like 5 hours a day and stuff at first. That's way too much practice now. Yeah. But so Dave Finnegan wrote a book called the Complete Guide to Juggling, and it was this thick book, and it was like my Bible for a long time. And so I was in House of Boss in Tokyo. This years later, and I had become a performer, and I was doing stage shows and stuff like that. And I was walking in to go into, get ready for the show, and he comes walking out, and I saw him, and I immediately recognized him. Like, and this is decades later. And I'm like, I don't believe it. And he said, you're a juggler. And but yeah, so I got to know him later on, like when he was in Tokyo. It was really kind of weird how the karmic loop. He was at a juggling festival in Baltimore in, I want to say like 91 or something like that. It turns out that 3 other juggling foreign performers in Japan were all at the same festival, and we didn't all know each other. So there's some sort of karmic trajectory there that we were all on.
Yeah, wow.
And what's the craziest thing you've juggled? Or any crazy things that you've juggled?
I've juggled a trombone broken up.
Okay.
A trombone in
interesting.
parts? Okay.
That was the fault of my roommate. I said, I'm thinking, I had my trombone on. I was like, I should juggle this. He said, he's a musician. He said, you can't juggle that. And so immediately I ran out in the street and started juggling it because he and I were always at each other. I juggle. I mean, you can juggle. I have another friend who does a show where he collects any 3 objects from the audience, and he juggles them. That's for his finale. He has to do 10 throws, and he always gets a baby stroller because he's really good with the baby stroller. He folds it up and stuff. And you know, and occasionally, like, he's done like the craziest thing. Actually, I've juggled real sharp knives, like chef knives. That was dumb though. I was
Do not try this at home.
No, it's like, it would be really unforgiving. I mean, I've done torches and stuff like that. I mean, and really any 3 objects is easy, provided they're well balanced. Because you have a lot of time with 3 objects. I've tossed a chainsaw before, but it's not. Chainsaw is actually pretty easy. It's just
not
just
on,
casually.
No,
Casually, just.
Well, it's heavy. That's the problem. It's just heavy.
Yeah.
And the ones that most jugglers, if they're smart, they're gimmick. They're not actually dangerous. Like, when you could whack yourself with it, that would hurt, but it's pretty hard to do that. I've juggled I've done 3 small bowling balls, and stuff like that. I actually have a trombone back here that I was thinking of juggling again. One of those, those plastic ones you get now?
Okay, yeah, like the student kind that
are
in different colors. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was thinking I wanted to, because the one I was doing was I broke it into parts, so I was juggling the bell and the slide, but I'd like to actually juggle the whole thing, and the plastic ones are light enough that it's possible.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
I don't suppose you have the space or the items around to do a little juggling for us on camera now.
I could.
That would have been the kind of thing to ask you ahead of time.
Yeah, I don't. I just threw out my back.
Oh, okay. Well, please don't hurt yourself.
I don't have any space to do anything good.
Just casually. I'm pretty sure 90 to 99% of the population can't do that either. Anyway,
totally.
Like I say, I broke my wrist. Dude, this is here it is. This is like my old routine when I was like 21. I was like, fish going upstream, and then behind the back, behind the other one.
Yay!
Okay.
Congrats! Woo!
Yeah, gravity sucks. Behind the other back. Behind both backs. Yeah, and then under the leg. Under the other leg. Still under the leg. And reverse. That's fancy finish.
Yay!
Very professional.
Thank you. I know I put you on the spot there. We can't see. We can only see your.
That's done. Okay. It's a
there
hat.
We go.
It was a hat.
You really do use any and everything.
You do really enjoy.
Wow, I can see why people definitely enjoy. And that's the thing. Like, we've known each other for a while, but I've never had the chance to see you perform, other than just like clips on social media. So this is cool.
Here's oh wait a minute. Oh God.
I think I've opened a can of worms. Once we get him in entertainer mode, there's no stopping it. This is awesome. People, he's going to be here all week.
Yeah, try the veal. Did you see that?
Yeah.
That's cool. Okay, that's okay.
I mean, it was a bit far away, but it looked very...
Yeah, I don't know. Like,
this
is the trouble with not doing things live. I mean, no, this is really... It's like, it's all CG or something.
And in front of a camera and...
Speaking of CG, your green screen is showing. Or the edge of your green screen is showing.
Here's what Johnny Depp this is a true story, actually. I met Johnny Depp, but this is what Johnny Depp did to get a crowd of 200 people in Benny and June. That's it. That's
the green screen.
200 people. 200 people.
With a hat trick.
Yeah, with that
Good
one
joke.
little hat
Yes.
Yeah, it's not that easy. Camera,
and
Hollywood
Just
magic.
get
there's a better version.
Just put a picture of 200 people on the green screen. There you go.
Yeah. That's it.
Wow. So you've been doing a lot of improv lately.
Yeah.
And what is the improv acting scene like in Tokyo as far as like the foreign community? Because I think most of our listeners, viewers are either foreigners in Japan or interested in being a foreigner in Japan.
I'd call it, well, until the pandemic showed up, it was exploding. So now the pandemic is exploding. But there's a great teacher. Chris Wells teaches at Studio Gokko beginning classes on Monday nights. And if you check in Meetup for improv, you'll find that there's a couple of English-speaking groups, 2 or 3 usually, alive in Tokyo at least, and then some outside in Osaka and stuff. The Japanese groups are they're all over the place. They're exploding right now. So there's 4 or 5 that I know of, and there's more like 6 or 7 in Tokyo alone. Pretty big sized groups. There's there's Studio Gokko that Chris teaches at Junimai, is one of the premier improv teachers in Japan. He teaches and works. Studio D is probably the most talented group of Japanese improvisers in Tokyo.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So do you mainly participate in the English-speaking groups, or do you also do Japanese?
I do both. I am with a group called Second Circle right now, and before I was with High Spirits. And then, so I do both. We're doing stuff online. Second Circle is doing like Zoom shows and stuff. To be honest, I hate it. No, I don't hate it. I enjoy it. I love it. But I'm a physical performer, so I don't like to. The Zoom thing is not as much fun as doing an actual live theater performance for me. I love the improv. I shouldn't have said I hate it.
I think we all understood that you didn't really mean it.
I think most people in the same situation as you, missing out on the live shows and performing on stage and things like that. So
yeah,
for sure. Yeah. I'm kind of thinking, brainstorming as we chat. I don't believe there are any improv groups here in Hokkaido, which of course would be Sapporo, since that's where all the cool stuff happens. But anybody who's listening and watching, shall we start an improv group? It's something I would love to participate in. I know one of our in the line guests who I shouted out last week. I'm going to do it again. Sean Clanky, you are coming up soon for our interview. He is an actor in horror films. He's usually the guy that gets killed pretty quickly, I think, or the monster in the horse mask. But I think we have quite a lot of talent up here in our foreign and otherwise community. I would like to see that happen. Maybe something that the Anything Goes Hokkaido podcast could try to help facilitate, if not sponsor. Sponsorship implies money, and we don't have any of that at this time. Speaking of, a little plug here, if you would like to be a patron or a sponsor of our podcast, we certainly could use it. Thank you, Jeremy. Yes, we'll have to get the video up there. Well, I say it at the end of every single podcast, but ooh, magic.
Oh.
That's I'm not a magician, so yeah, continue.
Well, you've got us mesmerized now.
This is just a string.
Any and everything. Have you been back
And-
to Hokkaido since your time here?
Yeah, a couple times, not for very long at any one time. Did a couple shows in Sapporo, and I worked in Noboribetsu at Marine Park.
Okay, yeah. I feel like I didn't meet you, but I should have
Maybe
at that time.
there's two guys. There's me and that work there. Maybe three guys that we all look the same. So maybe
It must be one of them, because he definitely was not Canadian. But I feel like, yeah, I saw you at the Marine Park
Yeah.
a number, probably 15, 16 years ago.
It's
Must
hardly
have been one of the other
possible, right?
guys. Wow. Well, I was going to ask, under other circumstances, when are we going to see you up here again? But of course, nobody knows
Yeah,
right now.
probably just after I don't know, it could be like the future I'm looking at right now. We're all going to be like sitting around garbage cans with gloves on that are cut off at the fingers and all tattered and stuff. So I think but maybe that will be Sapporo, so everybody, the Tokyo survivors, or everybody from Kyushu will move up to Honshu after they submerge into the ocean, and everybody in Tokyo will move up to Hokkaido because it'll be a nicer climate up there. Tokyo will be a desert, yeah.
Yeah, it's entirely plausible.
But I don't know. I'm trying to be less optimistic.
Good job.
Yeah.
That's quite the post-apocalyptic future there. It's a little bit depressing.
Situation, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now that they are kind of allowing people to travel within Japan, as like the Hokkaido nature tours, which was a couple episodes back, they're starting to offer packages and plans for people residing in Japan, whereas previously it was all foreign-based tourism. Perhaps we could use some of your entertainment expertise up this way, and some opportunity will come sooner than later.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. We hope so.
I'm always looking for opportunities to go back to Hokkaido. I love it there. I love Sapporo. Sapporo is one of my favorite places in Japan. I have fond memories of Tanuki, Shotengai, and
Tanuki Koji?
Odori Koen, and yeah. I used to take a bus in because I only had one day off. I'd go out Friday night. I would go to Sapporo and then spend Saturday, and then come back Saturday night.
Right, 6 days a week work schedule.
Yeah. It was great. Loved it every time.
When you started to say the tanuki thing, I was just already envisioning where you were going to take that. And the tanuki, which what is that, like a raccoon dog?
Yeah.
They're famous in Hokkaido especially, and they have a lot of densetsu, like legends about them. But they have these. They're balls, like the tanuki testicles are like supposed to be lucky, and so all of the wooden carvings and statues and Tanuki Koji shopping mall, you see these.
They treat it like sort of like the Buddha's belly. Is that how?
Yeah, exactly. People rub
Yeah.
the raccoon
The
dog
nutsack.
for good luck. I guess it's not just Hokkaido, but that is like a feature of that area in Sapporo for sure. The Tanuki Koji, little sketchy sometimes. I feel
that's that only contributes to this outsized reputation that Japan has internationally. Like the the rumors, the Tokyo rumors of the vending machines with the girls' panties in them and stuff like that. I've never seen that. But everybody knows that. That's like the number
Maybe
one
in the
thing they
past,
know.
no? Maybe in the past.
Did it ever exist? I don't know.
I don't think that is like a completely
Sure, in the
fabricated thing.
Yeah, I don't even think it's
in
a
the
thing.
bubble time with the vending machines.
There may have been. I mean, I saw when I first went to Tokyo, I saw vending machines with sealed mylar bags of something, but I don't know. Like, why would I assume that it was that?
Well, it's hard to say. I feel like Tokyo and super megatropolises probably have everything and anything from
Yeah.
From above ground to the underground practices. That would be an interesting episode to do someday. But the underground side of Sapporo, maybe, and our entertainment districts. But I was going to say, we were talking just about Tanuki Koji. And I wanted to give a little shout out to one of our local businesses, TK36, used to be TK6 in the Tanuki Koji Rokuchome, which is the 6th block, where it gets its name for Tanuki Koji, aka TK. But they closed down shop there for a little while and then reopened at a new location on Route 36. And Shinya, you were just there a couple days ago?
Last Friday?
Last Friday? Tell us. I haven't been
today?
since the opening pre-corona.
It's just the same. Oh, really? You haven't been to the new TK36?
I have. I went on opening night.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a big
okay.
business supporter. I went on opening night, yo. But then I haven't been back since...
Since
It's Japanese. Yo. Desho? Yo.
Desho? Well, I mean, it's what I remember as TK36. Hasn't changed that much. And I drank my first... not my first. My an Aussie beer, Australian beer. And it was not very good. I prefer Sapporo beer. So.
Shinya, where are you from in Australia?
I'm from Cairns.
Oh yeah, okay.
Cairns.
Cairns,
mate. So far north east of Australia.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, went there and they have nice burgers, and I think in the future we'll do a burger challenge there. It's like 3,500 yen for a burger, which is like stacked about like what is it, like 60 to 70 centimeters or something.
Wow.
And is it free if you eat it within a certain amount of time?
I think you have to eat it in 30 minutes.
By yourself,
and then it's free. Yeah, oh yes, by yourself.
Yeah, okay. If it gets safe to go out again, I mean, I know young single guy has a different idea of what's safe and safe.
I go out every weekend.
Well, you guys are really close. Hokkaido's only had one case or something yesterday, right? Like, you guys are close to defeating
It's supposed to be 0. Like, it was 0 for 2 days. Please don't tell me it went up 1, because my kids just went back to school after 4 months of homeschooling.
I think you're all right. I mean, Tokyo, we went down to 104 yesterday, so we're like, for us, that's business as usual almost.
Yeah. Well, we're getting there. I have decided I'm going to start taking Aikido classes soon.
Nice. Yeah.
There's another person I hope to have on the show soon who is Spanish-born, Iranian background, but a Japanese national. I could actually talk. I think he said the process was hellish, so maybe we don't want to talk about what it was like to become a Japanese national. But the Aikido thing is very cool. And even my very cautious family said, yeah, you could do that when Corona settles down. And I'm thinking, hey, we're at 0 cases. It's settled down.
Self-defense from Corona, you know.
Yeah. Hokkaido can be the New Zealand of Japan.
I kind of think it is in a lot of ways with all the sheep and stuff.
Tasmania. It's Tasmania.
Yeah, the Tasmania of Japan.
Tasmania.
Wow. Well, we're approaching the hour mark here, and I think we're trying to keep our show around that just for some consistency. But hey, anything goes. That's our motto. Jeremy,
let's go 2 hours.
I actually have to teach a class before that, so we would have to go a little shy. Anything you want to share with our audience about, anything?
Yes. I think everybody. Well, if you want to reach me, look for Jeremy Eaton on Facebook or JediJuggler.com if you want to hire me. And if you want to donate money to me, you'll have to come watch a show. And then, so in the meantime, please give that to this podcast, this fine podcast. And what else? Be peaceful, be nice to each other, don't sneeze on them, and enjoy your lives.
Yeah.
Very wise.
And one last question. Any advice for the young kids out there, maybe wanting to start doing some juggling or want to be an entertainer in the future?
Yeah. So yeah, okay. Here's what I advise: is follow your passions. Do it if you really enjoy it. Do it. There's really no barrier to entry. Anybody can go on a street corner and do whatever, and that's how I started. So literally, it's easy to say that, and you're really only starting the journey. But if you keep your eye on the peak, it eventually leads somewhere. I can promise you that. But I think your own path will be unique. So follow that. Follow your heart. Follow your what you're really interested in. As long as it's something that you're improving at, as long as it's something that you're figuring out how other people relate to, I think you could do almost anything.
Wow, that's some really great advice.
Yeah.
Thank you. Jeremy, it's been a pleasure.
Indeed.
Truly a pleasure to see you as a friend and to have you as a guest on our show. We love the fact that you've got such a strong connection with Hokkaido and that your career in Japan started here. And we really hope to see you in the flesh on our Hokkaido streets, in our venues, sometime down the line.
Or in Tokyo, yeah.
Yeah, Tokyo for sure. If you happen to be in Tokyo and you're interested in improv, interested in having a juggler and many faceted entertainer, please check out Jeremy's pages. They'll be in the links. Okay, yeah, thank you. Self-cannibalism happening here.
Bundle of them.
For the people who cannot watch.
I don't think you should explain it. Just say that there's cannibalism going on.
Cannibalism going on here
Jeremy
on the
just
cameras.
ate his thumb.
Yeah.
I haven't laughed this hard in a while. Thank you.
Our thumbnail for this podcast. What? There's cannibalism going on here? What is this cannibalism? Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I don't want to stop, but work and other things call. So everybody, thank you once again for listening and watching the Anything Goes Hokkaido video audio podcast. I'm Delena.
I'm Shinya.
And Jeremy Eaton.
Yeah, Johnny.
Jamie.
Sentimental Jamie っていう、Japanese 先生。
Entertainer to the last, and we thank you. So, okay.
Thank you.
Stuck it.
Ciao, bye-bye.
Have a good one. Thanks for inviting me.
As always, a huge thank you to everyone who made this podcast possible, especially our guest, Jeremy Eaton. Please check him out at thejedijuggler.com. And don't forget, we are currently running a Patreon campaign where you can get special access to different things about our show. And if you want to join up there, just go to patreon.com/anythinggoeshokkaido. We're very happy to support our local community and very happy that you are supporting us by watching and listening and sharing. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and mata shitake ne!